After losing their third child during labor, Kate and John decide to adopt. Little do they know the little girl they're welcoming into their home carries dangerous secrets destined to tear them apart. Today we're recapping the psychological horror movie, Orphan. Spoilers ahead. We open on a hospital. A pregnant Kate in labor walks in with her husband John. While he fills out the forms, Kate's taken to a hospital room. Kate quickly realizes she's bleeding profusely. A trail of blood runs behind the wheelchair. The doctor informs her that the baby died, and they're forced to remove it. Her husband records as they pull the bloodied baby from her body. They hand it to her, and Kate wakes up. It was a dream, a terrible nightmare. Kate goes to the bathroom and looks at her scars before taking a pill. Finally, she sits in her own misery on the bathroom floor. Kate tells Dr. Browning that they're seeing children on the weekends, but thinks the nightmares indicate she's not ready to adopt. Kate, a recovering alcoholic, tells Dr. Browning that she drove by the wine shop and nearly went in. Dr. Browning asks if Kate did, and she answers no. Dr. Browning says that if Kate is considering passing the home inspection, she tells Kate that ultimately she needs to decide if she's ready. Kate goes and fetches her daughter Maxine from school. Maxine is deaf. At home, Kate plays the piano but is interrupted by Maxine, who's playing basketball outside. She goes out and tells her to stop, apologizing for being aggressive at first. John arrives home with their son Daniel. Kate asks Daniel how practice was. He gives her a one-word response before running off. That night, Kate puts Maxine to bed. After reading a story about baby Jessica, Maxine asks if she's getting a new sister, which Kate says she doesn't know. Later, while taking her pill, Kate gets frightened when John appears behind her. He apologizes before they kiss. Something's off between them. Kate explains that she's happy and excited, but nervous and scared. The same feelings she felt before losing Jessica. John tells Kate she mustn't feel like they're going through with the adoption all because of him. Cinema recap here. We've got a little challenge that'll take 5 seconds, and it will change your life forever. You ready? All you gotta do is like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll receive 10 free years of good luck. It's as simple as that. Kate responds by telling him she wants to give the love they felt for Jessica to someone who needs it. John asks if she's sure, and she says she is. They go to the orphanage the next day. Sister Abigail greets them. They walk around, and John finds Esther. John looks at Esther's paintings and thinks they're amazing. Eventually, Kate and Sister Abigail find John talking to Esther. John introduces the two. They speak for a moment, and Kate and John decide they want her to come home with them. They learn she's from Russia. Her previous family died in a house fire, which Esther barely escaped. They sign the paperwork, and 3 weeks later they take her home with them. They arrive at the house, and Esther is introduced to Maxine, Barbara the grandmother, and Daniel. Esther's excited when she sees the piano, and Kate says she'll teach her. That night, while a storm rages outside, Kate decides to get intimate. They're interrupted when Esther knocks on the door with Maxine. She tells them that they're both afraid of the lightning. Kate and John say they can stay with them. Esther asks to lie next to John, and they all go to sleep. On Esther's first day, she meets her class and is immediately made fun of. After school, Esther's dragging Maxine around on a sled on a frozen lake. Kate comes running out to stop them and tells them not to play near the water. Meanwhile, Daniel plays in the forest with a paintball gun. He shoots a pigeon, not realizing it would nearly kill it. Esther and Maxine walk up to him as he stands over the dying bird. Esther grabs a rock and tells Daniel to put it out of its misery. After he refuses, she does it. Daniel, horrified, asks what's wrong with her before running away. That night, while Esther takes a bath, Kate goes and puts Esther's laundry away. After struggling to close her drawer, she finds a Bible with a photo of a man inside. She puts the book back. At school the next day, Daniel pushes Esther's books down. The girl who made fun of Esther grabs her Bible and starts teasing her. She hands the Bible back but doesn't let go. As a result, the Bible falls to pieces all over the floor. When the girl goes to grab at Esther's choker, she delivers a blood-curdling scream. After school, while teaching Esther piano, Kate confronts her about what happened at school. She asks if she wants to talk about it, but Esther says no. Esther asks Kate who Jessica is, telling her that Maxine mentions Jessica often. Kate shows Esther's Jessica's rose garden, where her ashes were spread. After dinner, while the kids are sleeping, Kate and John talk before having sex in the kitchen. Then John and Kate notice Esther in the door looking at them before leaving. Mortified, they quickly stop and get dressed. The following morning, when Kate talks to Esther, she bluntly and explicitly tells Kate that she knows what they're doing. Kate, still in shock, tells John and they talk about it. Although he suggests they talk to her together, Kate suggests taking Esther to Dr. Browning. Kate's worried that the swearing will spread to Maxine and Daniel. John agrees to spend more time with her and takes Esther and Maxine to the playground. While at the playground, Esther notices her bully. They stare at one another. A woman talks to John, and the two are clearly flirting. Esther, still staring at her bully, seeks her out. When the bully looks, Esther is nowhere to be found. Finally, Esther finds her and pushes her down the slide, breaking her ankle. Maxine sees her do it. At dinner, Esther denies having anything to do with it, and Maxine lies, saying the girl slipped. After Daniel's rude to Esther and swears at dinner, John locks up the treehouse. Sister Abigail calls. Kate tells her about the girl Esther pushed. At home, while packing away the groceries, Kate hears someone playing the piano. She walks in on Esther playing the piano far better than she let on. Kate asks Esther why she pretended, and Esther tells her that she thought Kate enjoyed teaching her. Kate tries to stop Esther as she walks away, but fails. Kate isn't happy about the lying. She feels uncomfortable. She tells John, who thinks she's paranoid. She asks him about talking to Brenda. Kate asks if Brenda invited him over, and John says, yeah. She's angry he kept it a secret, and it's revealed that 10 years earlier, John cheated. The two begin to fight. Esther listens in from her room while she paints. Sister Abigail comes and visits. She tells Kate and John that she thinks they made a mistake taking in Esther. She insinuates that trouble seems to follow Esther. She then tells them that she phoned Esther's previous school after Kate mentioned the slide incident. Sister Abigail found out that a boy accidentally fell with scissors in his hands and stabbed him through his jaw. Esther was there when it happened. John focuses on the word accidentally. Sister Abigail then brings up the Sullivan house fire, where Esther's adoptive parents died, telling them it was arson. Esther goes to Maxine and says that Sister Abigail is trying to take her away, so she asks for Maxine's help. Kate confirms they've had behavioral issues. John defends Esther, saying they're not the same as what Sister Abigail brings up. Sister Abigail says that she's reached out to the Russian orphanage and is waiting for them to get back to her. In John's study, Esther tells Maxine to look for the treehouse keys while she grabs a hammer. Maxine finds the keys, and Esther notices the safe key attached. In the safe is a gun. She takes all the bullets out but one and cocks the gun, pointing it at Maxine. As Sister Abigail leaves, she puts the gun away and runs with Maxine to the road. Esther pushes Maxine into the road as Sister Abigail drives around the corner. She swerves to avoid hitting her and runs to Maxine. Sister Abigail turns and sees Esther, who hits her with a hammer. She tells Maxine to help get Sister Abigail off the road. They push her down a hill as a car drives by and hide. Sister Abigail, still alive, tries to get away, but Esther hits her several more times before she's finally dead. They hide the body and clean up in the treehouse. Maxine's scared, but Esther threatens her, making sure she doesn't tell on her. Daniel watches as they leave the treehouse, hiding. While Daniel sleeps that night, Esther puts a blade to his throat. She threatens to cut him if he tells anyone what he saw. Dr. Browning tells Kate and John that Esther appears to be okay, and that the real problem is Kate's relationship with Esther. Dr. Browning says Kate is blocking Esther's attempt to bond, which Kate says isn't true. It's suggested that Kate feels inadequate because of her drinking and what almost happened to Maxine. She denies such feelings. When they arrive home, Kate and John bicker. Kate's phone rings, and when she answers it, she's asked by another sister from the orphanage if Sister Abigail ever made it to their appointment. The sister tells her that Sister Abigail never returned. They uncover the crime scene and the body of Sister Abigail close to Kate and John's home. John doesn't understand who could have done this. Kate has an idea. Kate researches character disturbed children and shows John what she found. He isn't enthusiastic about what she shows him. Kate feels like John takes every side other than his own wife's. She tells him that if there's even a chance that Sister Abigail was correct, then as parents, they should find out. He eventually agrees. Kate calls the orphanage and finds out that the Russian orphanage where Esther came from has no record of her, which confuses Kate. On the day that Esther is meant to see the dentist, she tells John she doesn't want to go. Assuming Esther's scared, he allows her to reschedule. While taking Daniel and Maxine to school, Kate asks her kids if anything has happened with Esther that she should know. Out of fear, they say no. Back at home, Esther and John paint together, and she tells John that she likes it when it's just the two of them, and that she doesn't think Kate likes her very much. John tries to tell her that it isn't true. He suggests Esther do something for Kate so she can show her how much she loves her. Esther walks up to Kate after dinner and tells her that she did something special for her. She pulled out the roses from the garden where Jessica's ashes were spread. Kate, angry, grabs Esther's arm and she starts screaming. John comes running. Kate asks why Esther would do this. She knew what the roses meant to her. John blames himself, but Kate knows she did it on purpose. That night, Esther goes to the garage, puts her arm in a bench vise, and breaks it. She convinces John that Kate broke her arm. Kate says it's impossible. John thinks she should stay downstairs for the night. Kate, on edge, goes out and gets 2 bottles of wine. At home, she considers drinking them, but stops before she does. Kate drops Daniel and Esther off at school the following day. As Daniel walks up the stairs, all his books fall out. Kate gets out of the car calling after him, leaving Maxine in the back. Esther then releases the brake and allows the vehicle to roll back into traffic with Maxine in it. Kate chases the car and it crashes into a snowbank. That night, Kate tells Dr. Browning and John that Maxine is covering for Esther, who she believes did it. John brings out the bottle of wine and says that Kate has a problem. They both recommend rehab, or John says he's leaving with the kids. Daniel asks Maxine if Esther did anything to her. Maxine shows him the pictures she drew of all the things Esther did. He asks about a picture of the treehouse, asking what's there, and Maxine tells him bad things. Daniel tells her he'll go and get him, so their mom and dad would have to believe him. Esther listens in on the other side of the door. Kate tries to learn more about Esther. Kate goes to her room and finds the Bible from before. When she looks inside, she finds pictures of old men spread within the pages and the name of an orphanage, Sarn Institute. She Googles the place and phones. Daniel goes to the treehouse to get the stuff Esther left behind. He climbs up the ladder to the treehouse. Kate learns that the Sarn Institute isn't an orphanage, but instead a mental hospital. Daniel gets inside the treehouse and looks around before Esther sneaks up on him. She shows him what he's looking for before setting the treehouse on fire. Daniel climbs on the roof of the treehouse while Esther watches him fall. Kate notices the fire and tells Barbara to call 911. Esther takes a rock and goes to finish the job, but Maxine stops her just in time. Kate gets to Daniel. At the hospital, Daniel survived but is in ICU. While waiting to see him, Kate talks to John about what she found, but he's not receptive to her claims. While Kate and John talk, Esther goes to Daniel's room and smothers him. Maxine tries to warn Kate and John, but it's too late. The doctors attempt to save Daniel. Kate, angry, goes to Esther and screams at her, asking her before slapping her. She falls to the floor and John holds Kate back. The doctors sedate Kate. When she wakes up, John tells her that he's taken Maxine and Esther home, and Kate tries to stop him. At home, John tucks Maxine in, and Esther comes to say goodnight. When Esther leans in to kiss her forehead, she takes Maxine's hearing aid. John goes downstairs and gets a drink, while Esther cuts at one of Kate's dresses. Esther walks into the living room holding a knife and wearing the cut-up dress. John, now drunk, asks Esther what she's wearing and what she's done to her face. Esther kisses him a few times on the cheek before whispering in his ear, "John, let me take care of you," freaking him out. Esther manipulates John. Finally, John breaks down, drunk and emotional. Esther gets bolder before John gets up and tells her to stop. Esther, furious, storms off. Back in the hospital, Kate gets a call about Esther. It's revealed that Esther is actually 33 with a disorder that causes dwarfism. The person on the phone asks if the girl Kate adopted has scars. He tells her that Esther, real name Lena, was a violent patient kept in a straitjacket. She constantly tried to escape it, which led to scars. The doctor tells Kate that Lena tricks families into adopting her. Then, when she can't seduce the father, she kills the entire family and burns the house down. Kate runs home to save John. Esther, in her true form, is about to kill John. John goes to Esther's room and notices the paint that shows up in the UV light. He opens the fish tank and lets it light up the wall, seeing her sinister plan illustrated before him. Behind the pictures, on the walls, are murals of John and Esther making love. He's interrupted by the phone ringing, but the power cuts out and he gets downstairs and grabs it. He goes and finds the fuse box destroyed. Frantically driving home, Kate calls 911 after not getting in touch with John. John walks around the house and stops before falling with a knife in his back. Esther stands behind him. She climbs on top and keeps stabbing him. He attempts to fight back but loses, and she kills him as Maxine watches. Esther runs after Maxine. Kate crashes the car into her home and sees John dead on the floor. Esther grabs the gun. Kate looks for Maxine, searching everywhere. Esther shoots Kate in the arm. Kate goes to her bedroom as Esther seeks her out. Esther gets closer. Maxine goes to the greenhouse. Kate, outside on the roof, hears a flower pot break and realizes Maxine is hiding in the greenhouse. She tells her to stay there as Esther walks in. Esther fires at Kate on the roof before finding Maxine. She fires 3 shots as Maxine runs, missing her every time. Finally, she fires again at the glass ceiling, and as the glass shatters, Kate falls and lands on her. Kate takes Maxine and leaves, assuming Esther to be dead. The police arrive, and Esther's gone. In the forest, thinking it's over, Esther runs at them with a knife. Kate attempts to shoot, but Esther knocks the gun out of her hand. They roll down the hill onto the lake. Maxine gets the gun and accidentally shoots the ice. They fall in. Esther drags her down, stabbing her before Kate knocks her out. She gets out of the lake, and Esther's hand grabs at Kate's foot and begs her mommy for help. Kate tells her she's not her mother before kicking her in the face and getting away while she drowns. Finally free, they walk away from the lake. The end.